as the continuing story of Peyton Place.
This is Lola Albright. I will be playing the part of Constance Mackenzie until the return of Dorothy Malone.
Tonight starring Lola Albright as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Mia Farrow as Allison Mackenzie, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Conley as Norman Harrington.
This is the Payton Mill. As it has prospered, so has Payton Place. If the mill should fail, the town cannot long survive. And this is Martin Payton, the last man living to bear the name. The town, the mill, family. In Martin Payton's old and ailing hands may very well rest the survival of all three.
Well. Mr. Prohaska. Still working at the mill.
It's good to see you back, Mr. Payton.
You're looking hale and hearty. How is Mrs. Prohaska?
Fine.
And the rest of the family?
All fine.
Good.
This is my son, Johnny. He's worked here going on 3 years.
Carrying on the family tradition. I'm glad to hear it.
Good man make good clothes.
The sheets can make it better, so what do you need men for? That's what Schuster says.
Not anymore, Freddy. The boss is back. Schuster can forget about his push buttons.
Thank you, Mr. Prohaska. Well, Mr. O'Brien. Still in the bookkeeping department?
The boss. Prohaska will be blabbing about this for the next 6 months, just because Peyton remembered his name and asked him about his old lady. Prohaska! What does it put in your pocket?
Look, Chernak, it don't cost anything to be polite.
The king is back, and all the peasants crawl to him, with his one peasant that don't.
You always wear a lot of big talk.
You think so, huh? Look at him standing there, smiling. Take a good look, because I'm going to wipe that smile right off his face. Mr. Payton, you remember me? Gus Chernak. I used to work on the looms like Prohaska. I'm the night watchman now. I got your son-in-law Harrington to thank for that, and a lot more. And your grandson Rodney. I got him to thank for Joe. You gonna tell me you're sorry, Mr. Payton, like Harrington did? You gonna tell me you feel bad about Joey's death?
Guest. Mr. Payton's downstairs talking with some of the men. That ought to give us a moment or two to get organized, get ready for him, at least I hope. Oh, those automation files. They should be put into one folder. I think I'll have time for that. And then you'll want to see that report, the estimate from cable.
Julie, this isn't necessary.
Well, Mr. Schuster, you don't want him to just walk in here.
Well, he's the chairman of the board. He can walk in here anytime he chooses.
Well, I know that, but you want to be prepared. I mean, he might ask anything.
Well, then I'll do my best to answer him. Julie,
Yes.
will you see that this gets in the morning mail?
Anything else?
No.
Day after tomorrow, Stephen. Just a little over 24 hours. And what are we walking into that courtroom with? Rodney's second thoughts on a statement he gave in an irrational condition. A stolen personnel report that checks out. And the Johnny-come-lately testimony of Norman's teenage girlfriend.
That's right. And that's exactly 3 times what we had at the hearing.
But not 1/10 of what we need to win the case. They haven't named a judge yet, have they?
We'll know this afternoon.
I used to know a Judge Carter. Is he on the circuit?
I imagine it'll be either Quigley or Chandler. I'd be satisfied with either one. Rodney is going to be tried by a jury. He's going to be tried on the basis of the facts presented.
I was just looking for some leverage.
We won't get it that way.
Well, we haven't gotten it from you, Mr. Lawrence.
This isn't his final report.
Might as well be. The trial is the day after tomorrow.
Look, I know you think I've staked too much on discrediting Stella Chernak. But her lie is a loaded gun. It's got to backfire.
And if it doesn't, what do we do then? Precisely, what do we do the day after tomorrow?
I'll know better when Fowler presents his case. There are always intangibles. The composition of the jury, for example.
You're shadowboxing, Stephen. I hired you because you always laid your cards on the table. As of right now, everything the way it is. Just what are Rodney's chances?
I can't guarantee anything. Morning. I was on my way to the drugstore and I saw you. Been to the hospital?
Yes.
How's Allison coming along?
All right. Look, Stephen, I've got a big day ahead of me.
I can see that. You know, it's easy to forget this side of running a paper, the routine. When I think of an editor, he's a man with an attitude, not correcting commas, but shaping public opinion.
Yeah, well, they're both part of the job.
You say that like you've been doing it for a lifetime. I mean it. I'm impressed.
Look, Steve, I know you didn't come here to ask after Allison or to deliver a testimonial to my abilities, so why are you here?
I've been going over my notes. I want to know about the time you rescued Rita Jacks from Joe Chernak.
Who told you about that?
Her mother. She said he and another boy, Earl, were trying to force Rita into their car. You came along just in time to save her.
Well, what do you want to know about it?
Is that the way it happened?
Yes.
Ada didn't leave anything out. Well, she's the girl's mother. It would only be natural for her to tell this in the way most favorable to her daughter. Now, suppose Rita had originally been willing to get in the car, then changed her mind. That would be quite another story.
Now, who put that into your head?
I'm just following Fowler's line of reasoning. Now, knowing Rita's reputation, this would be the obvious question.
Well, that's not how it happened.
You're quite sure, Elliot?
I'm sure.
After all, you weren't there from the beginning.
I said I'm sure. Those 2 hoodlums had her so terrorized she wouldn't even let me go to the police. She was afraid they'd take it out on Norman.
It could have been an excuse. And Rita might have been afraid it would get her other boyfriend in trouble. Chernak. I'm trying to think like Fowler.
Well, forget Fowler. Stop using him as an excuse. I saw Rita, and I saw Chernak when I warned him to stay away from her.
When was this?
A day or so after it happened, I went over to the place where he worked.
Would you be willing to testify to that in court? I know your position, Elliot, but if circumstances force me to subpoena you...
I'll tell the truth. Now, if that's what you came over here to find out about, you could have saved yourself a trip.
You're not a private citizen now, Elliot. You're editor of a paper.
That's still no reason for me to lie.
Well, I never had any thought of that. But I know you have a public image to consider. If all this came out, well, it's one thing to be a crusading editor, but people would hardly consider Rita Jack's a worthy cause. Now, if putting you on the witness stand is going to embarrass you, I'd rather hear about it now. I'm only trying to be fair. To you. And to Rita.
Will you stop pussyfooting around? All you're here to find out is whether or not you can count on me as a defense witness.
Well, that too, of course. My client has to be my first concern.
Your first concern. Your only concern is yourself, Stephen. You want to win this case, not just because it's a victory, but because it's a big step forward for you, isn't it? And what happens to me, or to Rita Jacks, or to Rodney, for that matter, you couldn't care less about as long as you get what you want.
All I want is the truth.
Well, that I can promise you.
Good morning, Mr. Payton.
Mrs. Anderson.
Oh.
Oh, let Mr. Schuster complete his call. I can wait.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see you came back to your old job.
Mr. Schuster asked me to.
How is Mr. Anderson? Where have you got him?
He's in a state hospital.
Making progress?
They seem to think it's hopeless.
I see.
Mr. Payton is here to see you, Mr. Schuster. He'll be right out.
Well, hello, Mr. Payton. How are you?
Oh, I saw Mrs. Anderson when I arrived this morning. I see you're ready and waiting.
Well, won't you come in? Hold all calls.
Still losing money. Why?
You had my report.
A jumble of figures. With a sugar frosting of textbook economics. I want to know what's wrong. Basically, simply.
Basically and simply, Mr. Payton, we're behind the times. Our machinery is obsolete.
You're still blaming the machinery.
That machinery belongs in the junk pile, Mr. Payton. And that jumble of figures boils down to one hard fact. We automate or we go bankrupt.
My mill will never go bankrupt. I wanted to get that far.
What do you propose to do to stop it?
Well, I've been nosing around. I took a look at that machinery. You're right. It isn't very modern. But I also took a good look at those men. I listened to them talk. I've been in business for many years. I've learned one basic truth. When the hands are tight on the reins, the wagon goes onward. When the hands are slack...
Julie, bring me the cable report.
I'm not questioning your competence, Schuster. But men with mere competence don't make good leaders. I'm looking for drive, imagination.
A miracle.
Well, if I were a younger man myself...
Thank you.
What about Mrs. Anderson? What was your thinking in hiring her?
She was intelligent and capable and knew the business.
She learned it from Leslie Harrington. They worked together. Closely. Very closely. There was a loyalty.
Well, I think that's in her favor, don't you, Mr. Payton?
I have my reason for thinking otherwise. What did you want to show me?
These are Cable's estimates and recommendations.
More figures. More theories.
That's fact, Mr. Payton. We can't meet our competitors' prices.
Reduce the overhead. Pare it to the bone.
I don't think we're going to get anywhere saving paper clips and string. Now, there is an alternative. I had a phone call recently from Mr. Fletcher, who works for Kenneth Markham.
Kenneth Markham Enterprises. What did he want?
They're willing to make you a generous offer for this mill.
Not interested.
Well, you won't automate. You can't go on paying the losses out of your own pocket forever.
What happened when Mr. Markham was here? Did he flatter you into letting him snoop around?
I resent that, Mr. Payton.
How did he know the mill was in difficulties?
It's not a secret. May I suggest a compromise? Markham might be persuaded to put some working capital into the mill.
Out of the question.
What other choice do you have?
I don't want any partners. This is my mill. I'll run it my own way.
And let it go under. You can't do that. A whole town depends on this mill for its living.
I'm aware of my responsibilities.
Well, you've certainly left me unsure of mine, Mr. Payton. I have to tell you, Mr. Payton, if I'm to continue to run this mill, I have to have the authority to run it properly. Otherwise...
Don't try to fight with me, Schuster. If there's going to be any fighting, I'll pick the arena and the time.
Is one of the most prominent psychiatrists in Boston. We just spent over an hour talking to Allison.
What did he say?
Well, the things that Allison has forgotten, she's chosen to forget. They're the things in her life, areas that she's found difficult to handle. Her relationship with you, her relationship with Rodney.
Does she know why she's forgetting these things?
You consciously know, but on an unconscious level, and these are the things Dr. Quist told me, she's resisting those things that have threatened her this past year, those things that have disturbed her. The trauma of the accident has simply allowed her a way to do this.
What does he suggest? Where do we go from here?
Well, there are two possible alternatives. Number one, you could take Allison to his clinic in Boston, but I should caution you, this would be very expensive.
Well, you know, money is no consideration.
What is the other alternative?
Well, you could let her stay here, or allow her to remain more or less in a natural environment.
Well, wouldn't that be better?
Well, Dr. Quist, what did he suggest was a better choice?
Well, there was no final answer. He did think staying here might have certain advantages. Being surrounded by everything familiar might help to bring her out of it.
How long, did he say?
Well, there's no way of predicting that. I know this might be difficult on you, Elliot, but, well, the breakthrough could come any day.
I don't want to be separated from her. I want her here.
Well, Connie, what are we going to do? Dr. Quist can't come down from Boston every day.
No, of course not. I don't know if you'll buy this, Elliot, but Dr. Quist felt that she could be treated by a family physician.
Will that be enough, Mike?
It's not unusual. I know Allison, and I know Allison's history.
Michael, you don't have to justify yourself to us. We have complete confidence in you.
Of course we do.
Excuse me. Yes? Oh, yes, thank you. Allison has asked to see us.
Oh, you mean Connie and you?
Mr. Gehring, please report to physical therapy.
Let's see now. I think you'll be more comfortable if I set it on your left side, and then you can reach over.
I don't want any orange juice.
Well, I think you'll feel better after you've had something.
I don't want any orange juice.
something's wrong.
What is it, Allison?
Mother, did you hear what happened this morning?
You mean Dr. Quist?
Is that his name? Why did you let Dr. Rossi do it?
Well, Dr. Quist was here to help you, darling.
Help me? Do you think I need help? Do you think I'm losing my mind?
Allison, you've forgotten a few things.
What does it matter if I've forgotten a few little things? I've had a very serious accident. My fingers. Why doesn't somebody do something about my hand, my side, instead of coming in here asking a lot of very stupid questions?
Darling, they are doing something. You know that.
Allison, Dr.
Well,
Quist
they're not
came-
doing enough. I lie here day after day not knowing if I'm ever going to walk again, and somebody sends in a stupid psychiatrist who wastes a lot of time asking a lot of very obvious questions.
All right, Allison, I get the point. You're trying to ignore me.
Mother,
Look at me.
I'll never trust you again.
Why? Because I sent someone in here to help you.
I don't like being asked personal questions by a stranger.
A doctor.
A stranger.
Allison, Dr. Rossi didn't mean to upset you.
That's exactly what I did mean. Allison, you have a problem that needed Dr. Quist's attention.
You do think I'm going out of my mind?
Oh, of course not, darling. We don't...
Wait a minute, Connie. Allison, don't play this game. I'm going to try and help you. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I'm going to help you, really help you, whether you want me to or not.
All right, have it your way. I'm tired.
I'll stay here with her for a while.
I think we better go, Connie. Connie, we're going to have to get something settled right here and now. We're not going to baby that girl.
You can't treat her that rough, either. It's obvious that she's suffering.
Well, physically, yes, but psychologically, she's much more comfortable in this situation than the rest of us.
I can't believe that, Mike. She's terrified. She's afraid she's losing her mind.
Connie, don't give in to her on this. I mean, she's just paying lip service to being afraid. This is all part of her defenses.
I'm beginning to lose this, Mike. You're talking about my daughter.
Well, your daughter right now has become a combative patient. She's locked herself off from reality, and she seems determined to stay locked off.
Well, don't you think there's a danger of treating her too roughly?
That's exactly what she wants us to think. Treat me tenderly. Don't ask any questions. She doesn't want you or me or Dr. Quist or anyone to get within touching distance of the issues that cause this thing.
Well, what am I supposed to do, Mike? I've caused the issues.
Oh, Connie.
Well, face it, Elliot, I have. We both have. What she's fighting in there is us, 18 years ago. What she appeared to have accepted, she never really did.
Well, if you take that stand, you're lost, and she's lost, and I can't win. Without hurting her anymore, we've got to get her to accept reality.
You make it sound like a declaration of war.
It is.
Preview from the continuing story of Peyton Place.
Up until 2 minutes ago, it was very nice working for you, Mr. Schuster. I think we'll both be a lot more comfortable if I just resign.
Leslie Harrington, as Catherine's husband, has primary rights. Papers would have to be signed.
Get them signed.
Just like that.
Just like that.
I haven't made up my mind whether I want the position. I'm not about to be a glorified servant for Mr. Payton or you.